as we've discussed on this program, West Virginia has a reputation nowadays of being a conservative state. The only statewide elected official right now who is not a Republican is Joe Manchin, and Joe Manchin is Joe Manchin. So, with that in mind, the question has come up. We've talked about it here a number of times, and I've written about it as well for The Nation. Can a different politics arise in West Virginia? It's particularly important to note that that the state of West Virginia was not always what people think of it today. We have short memories in that regard. My next guest is a candidate for the United States Senate in West Virginia who is challenging that assumption pretty substantially. His name is Zach Shrewsbury, and he is running a campaign that is not in the mold of the centrist Democrats we've seen in the past. So, first of all, Zach Shrewsbury, welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you for having me on. I fully appreciate it.
Well, we're glad to have you. And I can see you are not in a comfortable living room somewhere. It looks like you're in some sort of accommodations of one kind or another. I think you said you were in a hotel or motel room somewhere. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm in a hotel right now. We've been on the road, day 14 on the road, just nonstop, or I think day 14 or day 12, one of those. My days blur together. We do so many events every day. But yeah, I'm in different hotels, and we're just moving. I also travel with my cat, which you're going to see behind me,
Yeah, I
maybe.
just saw a cat. What?
So
So it's a pet-friendly hotel. Okay.
yeah,
I have a cat too in here somewhere. So listen, tell us. I know you've done this a million times, but for those of us listening around the country who might not know what you're up to, tell us a little bit about yourself and your campaign.
yeah. So native West Virginian. I joined the Marine Corps right outside of high school. I did 2.5 years of Fleet Anti-Terrorism Security Team. 2.5 years in the infantry. Got out as a sergeant. Became a father while I was inside the Marine Corps. I moved to Seattle after I got out. I got involved in politics there with some city council, like a little city council race, Bernie Sanders eventually in 2016. Eventually, I ended up moving back to West Virginia to take care of my grandmother because she had fallen in bad health. So I moved in next to her to take care of her. When I got back to West Virginia, um, I didn't like what I saw. Things have gotten worse since I had left. We have an addiction crisis. There's a lot of poverty. There's no jobs, and people are hurting. So I dived into politics again and community organizing. I was delivering water to communities that didn't have clean water. I was feeding the homeless in different cities in West Virginia, and I was going around communities. At first, a lot of my free time, just going and trying to see what issues there are, finding, talking to people and say, hey, how can I help? How can we amplify your voice to our legislators who are clearly not listening? Um, we did that for months, and I was just talking to people, and it was very much the same story. People were about jobs, wages, roads, taking care of their kids. Eventually, I ended up getting picked up by some different organizations after they saw what I was doing, and I started pushing for legislation like the PRO Act, Build Back Better, the Freedom to Vote Act. So PRO Act being one of the biggest ones we push for because I'm very big union labor guy. Um, so that took me from Charleston to D.C., meeting with Senator Manchin a lot, trying to get him to vote the right way, which we know he never did.
Right.
um, then last year I was pushing for renewable energy in West Virginia. So I've been going through the coal fields down here and pushing for solar panels, and a lot of success. We did 50 some towns, and a lot of towns want to apply for solar panels through grants to transition away from coal. And that's a big victory in West Virginia. And I'm
Sure
very
thing.
big on a just transition. It's one of my biggest policy points. I'd like to bring manufacturing jobs to West Virginia through solar. Build it here, allow miners to have those jobs first, union jobs. But essentially, I threw my hat to win the running this race because, like I said, I traveled across the state. It was all the same story. I never saw anyone like me or any from the working class of West Virginia. It's always been a millionaire, a coal baron,
Right.
a family, the family dynasty. This doesn't represent true working class people, and that bothers me. And no one's listening to us. It never happens. No one. We haven't had a federal official come to doors and ask us what we believe. That's what I do. I took my organizing, I put it into this campaign. So a lot of times, I go to the hills and hollers and ask people. I'm not asking for your party affiliation. I'm asking, hey, what would you like to see done in this seat? What would you like to see? What can I do to fight for you? And it resonates across party lines. So at the end of the day, people just want to be their voices heard. So that's what I'm doing. I'm fighting for the working class here because we haven't had that in West Virginia for a long time. And with Senator Manchin retiring, now we have a hole to fill. And West Virginia can get it right. You put the right person in this office.
West Virginia is such an interesting state in that way because you do have this kind of million. I noticed that one of your opponents is a coal baron too. It looks like,
Yeah.
or until he got driven out of that business for some mishap or another. But people forget this is where the union movement really got its legs. This is where the United Mine Workers also first racially integrated. You talk about the great tradition of, and I think you started you announced your campaign in Charlestown, which was.
Yep.
A site of notorious hanging associated with the workers' struggle. I also, I worked for Bernie Sanders in 2016, and I also remind people in print and in writing, Bernie won every county
Yes.
in West Virginia. You
Yes.
know, people say, wow, Jew, socialist, New Yorker, he doesn't have a chance. But people, if you, as you said, Zach, if you take the labels away, somebody might say, I'm a conservative, I'm a Republican, I'm a this and that. Well, you want the government to take, you think your health care should be taken care of? Yes. You think you should get a decent wage? Yes, and so on. So it sounds like that's kind of what you picked up from your experiences organizing
Yeah.
and the Bernie campaign and some other things. So you're carrying that forward. Now, the conventional wisdom is that you're a long shot and for the nomination, and
Mhm.
that a Republican's going to win anyway. You must hear that a lot, right?
I do.
And
Yeah, I hear it every day.
yeah, I'll bet you do. And what do you say to that? What's your response?
I bring up Bernie Sanders a lot in that. I said Bernie Sanders carried the state in 2016. He outpolled Trump. I
Right.
said this is not a Republican held state; it's a Trump held state, and the reason for that is because you had two options: you had Bernie and Trump, both populist, both one had hope, one selling fear. Bernie didn't make it, so fear won here in West Virginia. Donald Trump conned people here because people are desperate. We just want to be heard. And Donald Trump was one of the first federal politicians to say, "Hey, I'm here for you," and people believed him. Now, of course, that was a lie. He hasn't done anything for West Virginia, as we were saying. But when you have people who are just want to be heard for once, that's to be expected. So, and that's what I'm trying to do. Bringing that Bernie Sanders type, populist message from the left. It goes pretty well. And like I said, I bring up, I'm very much my genuine self here. I'm in this campaign. That goes well in West Virginia when but people are tired of the political pandering or your politician speak. As I call it. I'm very much very blunt, very forward how I think. I was at a town hall just the other day, and I said, look, I might not have the popular opinion in the room, but my beliefs are my beliefs, and I'm not going to back down from them. I'm not going to pander to you, but I do want to ensure that you are taken care of at the end of the day. You don't have to agree with me for that. And that resonates. That resonated pretty well. I had a lot of Republicans come up to me and say they're going to vote for me because they like a genuine person. So I mean, I think that's what I'm saying. I think we can pull if you put the right person in this race, you can pull this off against a establishment Republican like Jim Justice. You can absolutely do this race. You have to have the right messaging and the right person, and that's me.
And Jim Justice, another coal baron, if I recall correctly, was briefly a Democrat in order to get the
Yeah.
Democratic nomination and then switch back, if my memory serves me right on that. And it still amazes me, Zach, that a state that where the natural resources have been devastated by the coal industry, where the coal barons have kind of abandoned the workers that made them who they are, that these guys can show their face in public. I mean, I'm just being blunt here, much
No, you're right.
less be elected a governor. What happened, you think, that, and I'm, in this case, and obviously governor, I'm speaking of Jim Justice, but what happened that you think that that made people say, well, F it, I'll vote for the coal baron? What do you think that is? That Trumpism? Is that something else? Is it just the Democratic Party hasn't been speaking to their needs, or what is it?
Well, the Democratic Party for a long time, until recently, the Democratic Party has is to me is making a comeback in West Virginia. It was ran by Manchin for the longest time,
Right.
and Senator Manchin very much gutted the Democratic Party in West Virginia. Now it's in new hands. It's making some comebacks. There's new messaging around it. So I think you're seeing right now we're seeing the new growth of it. But when it comes, what we can do, yeah, don't Jim Justice, he comes across, he does politics well enough where he comes across as a very nice, folksy
Hmm.
person in person. Yeah, he utilizes his bulldog to his advantage. He uses that bulldog to like win votes better because he look at my cute dog, and people go with it. And ultimately, as like for the longest time for West Virginia, there hasn't been a real big difference in our federal politicians. I mean, Senator Manchin, comparatively to Jim Justice, there's not a huge amount of difference besides probably maybe support for unions, which I'll give Manchin that he did support unions a lot. Jim Justice does not, but we never really had much of a difference in our candidates. It's always just been there's an R and a D, but they're both very much there's close to each other. So
Right.
yeah, so that's I think this is why this election is very important because now we actually have different options in this.
Let's talk about your primary a little bit. It's coming up soon, right?
Yes,
What's the date of your primary?
May 14th.
May 14th. So not far at all, less than a month. And I guess your primary opponent is Blankenship. Is that right? Is it, I mean, there's two. There's Blankenship and Elliott, but I don't know if they're both uh, equally viable contenders or how that works. But tell us a little bit about the primary. I mean, I would assume someone like Blankenship, for example, I don't know much about Elliott, but Blankenship, with his background, he's got money, he can throw into ads and whatnot. Uh, how's that primary race going? And for example, have there been debates or have they refused to debate? That kind of thing. If you could tell us.
Um, there's been no debates. Don Blankenship hasn't thrown, from what we can tell, hasn't thrown any money in this race. I think he just threw his name in this race to see where he landed, probably just be relevant in the news. But he doesn't
Mhm.
see unless he's going to spend money in these last 3 weeks. He hasn't done anything to prepare for it. So I think he might just be doing this for relevancy. Honestly, no one really knows what his plan was. Other than that, myself and Elliot have been cordial with each other. We basically just stick to our talking points and stick to our strategy. We have different strategies. Um, but for the primary race, I mean, I've been very well received across the state. Like I said, I'm doing it every day. I wake up, drive to an event, drive to another event, sleep, wake up, do it again, and it's been great. I've had tons of people come up to me and thank me for running. I've inspired different Democrats to come out in their communities and make new executive committees, which is kind of crazy. People are inspired. We do mutual aid at events. So yeah, the primary has been great. I've seen almost the entire state now, and it's been fantastic. When we're getting people from all over the place following this race, sending awards of support, and it's across the board. It's not like Democrats. It's Green Party members. It's Democrats. It's independents. It's the disillusioned Republicans. So
Right. Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you completely. So let's talk a little bit about your campaign process. I mean, I get that you are a road warrior here, and that's the process. That's a big part of the process. But I assume, for example, that you need money for various things. I know that people can contribute, and we'll have you tell us where people who are interested in contributing can do that. But what do you spend most of your money on? It literature, handouts,
name it.
you name the whole
Um,
9 yards, right? Yeah,
so I mean,
signs.
I pay a full staff. So I have a full staff. We have uh, our fundraising, I mean, like I said, I'm doing emails, text banking, phone banking. We have digital ads going out. You name it, we're doing it. This is a very well functioning campaign. We have canvassing materials. We have digital ads going. We had a commercial be made. So yeah, I mean, it's like I said, every dollar that comes into this campaign, we're spending it out tactfully. I can't say the word tactically.
Tactically, yeah,
Yeah,
easy for you
tactically.
to say, right? Yeah, yeah.
I
Um,
say we're spending it
before we
tactically
go,
on what's needed to win.
where can people contribute?
You can go on. I'm on ActBlue. If you go to my website, shrewsburyforsenate.com, you can donate there. But I'm also on all social media, Instagram, Facebook, X, Threads, TikTok, you name it. My ActBlue link is there somewhere.
All
If
right,
that you
yeah,
want to
yeah,
find.
I've found it. If I can find it, anybody can find it. But so let's pivot, Zach Shrewsbury, and talk a little bit about West Virginia now. One of the things my job with Bernie was you speechwriter. He didn't like that term because he just says whatever the hell he wants anyway. But so I'd give him items to mention, right? Facts. And when we got to West Virginia, fact that if you're in McDowell County, your man in McDowell County, your lifespan is going to be on average 22 years shorter than if you drive 8 hours up to Arlington, Virginia, where there's rich folks. Okay. I mean, there's a million things like that. Obviously, you know that better than I. So, one of the things that, we observe, or I've seen, is that it seems to me that, and we've been talking about this a little bit, is that the political process doesn't really speak to people, then a lot of people will refrain from participating,
Hmm.
as well as those who will go for Trump because at least he's, giving an FU to the guys they don't like who have screwed them over for the past 50 years or whatever. So I guess part of it is how do you speak to, for example, that voter or potential voter in McDowell who uh, hasn't voted, who, I always get so angry at liberal Democrats who are dismissive of Trump voters or whatnot, or non voters. What do you say to the person who's buried their child from an opioid overdose,
Yeah.
who doesn't have a job, knows they never will, is watching their community dying, as health problems that they can't get treated? How do you even reach somebody like that and say, this is not as hopeless as it feels? Do you get what I'm driving at?
Yeah, because in this race, and I've said this whole time, I am the working class candidate. I understand these struggles. No one else can say that. I don't come from money. I come from the hills and hollers just like everybody else. I've had the struggles with bills. I've had the car breakdown. That sets me back bad. And that resonates very well when I say, look, I'm just like you. I just happened. I got into community organizing, and I learned that it wasn't just me out here suffering. It's all of us together. It's the working class together, and that resonates well on that. That's a good that's a good way into the door, so to speak, for that conversation. I don't defend I don't defend DC Democrats when people are mad. Like a lot of times people will try to defend the Biden administration, for instance.
Right.
I let that person go. If they're mad, let them talk. Let them talk to you. Yeah, I just roll with it, and then you turn the conversation back on. Hey, let's talk about your community. Let's talk about this roads I was driven on that was the potholes are destroying my car. Let's it's it. You I make it very personal. Like w- everyone in West Virginia knows someone or has probably lost somebody to an addiction crisis at this point.
Right.
That resonates heavily, and for our main politicians that are always running, they don't really see that or experience it because they're out of touch. They're not in that class. They're not in the working class. So that's what I've said. I haven't had. I mean, of course, it doesn't always work, but I mean, I'll say 8 times out of 10, I can always have a good conversation with anybody. When I say, look, I'm the guy. I'm running for this seat. I'm not a politician. I'm just like you. I come from these areas, and I'm the one on this porch right now asking you what I can do to help you. I guarantee you're not going to see anybody else doing that for you.
So, how does it go over, for example, when you tell folks? I noticed, for example, on your website, which I think is zachshrewsbury.com, I can't remember, but uh, is that it? Is that your campaign
Shrewsbury
website?
for Senate.
Shrewsburyforsenate.com. I've been on it. I just can't remember the URL.
You're good. You're
But
fine.
yeah, but I noticed, for example, you talk about uh, replacing the healthcare system we have now with a universal healthcare system, which I completely support too, as you might imagine. But how do people react when you tell them that?
I haven't. I honestly haven't had any negative reactions to that yet. Someone might ask you how you pay for that, and I'll go into explain how we allocate reallocating money in DoD. But um, I haven't had real negative pushback on that because so many people, when I phrase it, say, "Yeah, look, I believe in universal health care." I say that very openly, and people respect that because I'm not pandering, I'm not politically pandering around them. And I say, look, I'm tired of seeing friends and family have to go to the pharmacy and see their medicine has been raised $100. Now they can't afford it. I'm tired of seeing people are afraid to take an ambulance when they're sick, so they get in their car and drive themselves to the hospital because they can't afford it. Private health insurance companies are telling us what medicines they can get against a doctor's orders. I mean, we can't live like that. And I think, man, most people, are in this system. They understand where I'm coming from with that. They had the same gripes. I don't think they think of a solution as universal because it's always been told it's bad. But when you have someone in your door saying the exact problems you're experiencing, say this is the solution, a universal healthcare system, and it resonates. Like I said, I've had very little pushback on that. People seem to be very open minded to that. I think that argument is very has kind of lost its the demonization of universal healthcare. I think has lost a lot of its fire now. That's from my experience.
Yeah, that's interesting. And of course, one of the ways they've demonized it for all these years now, even though most other developed, virtually every other developed country has it, but is by saying it's socialized medicine. They've actually been
Yeah.
saying that since 1935, when Roosevelt raised the idea. So it's socialism. Do you get you're a socialist, you're a commie response very much?
Um, not often. We tackled that early on out the gate. There's a Guardian article about how can an ex-Marine socialist take on Joe Manchin's seat. But it benefited us. Like I said, I'm very open about everything. We tackled that early on, and we don't shy away. We don't shy away from the term socialist here. And once again, like I said, it resonates. People don't like it when you're trying to dance around it, or
Right.
when you're lying to them, where you're trying to people catch on now to the like I said the political speak, and it's across the board. I mean, even Republicans are tired of it. That's why I said like Bernie impressed me so much in West Virginia. I would talk to Trump supporters afterward, and I would ask him about Bernie, and they said, yeah, I didn't like anything he really believed in, but he was a genuine man because he fought for what he always believed in, and I respect that. I remember that was a the heavy opinion about Bernie from a lot of Trump supporters that I knew. It resonates in West Virginia still that because that person is that where that person is coming from.
Right, exactly. And I've always said that it being real is a huge. I mean, I just got to tell you a quick story. I'm from upstate New York, which is kind of uh, more like West Virginia than you might think in certain ways. And I remember I went up there. I was one of the first employees of Bernie's, like number five. So it was early in the campaign. I drove by a barn, and it said on it, Trump for the White House, Hillary for the jailhouse, Bernie for the nut house. I said, we're in. They know our name. We're making it. But there is something to be said for just being real in that way. So that's really interesting to me. Now, you also I want to just briefly bring up. You mentioned that you're an ex-marine, and you told us a little bit about your service. My dad was an ex-marine too, and riflery instructor actually. My uncle saw combat, but he didn't. But I remember, one of the things that people don't think about a lot is that people think of the military as a right-wing institution, but the fact is, for example, it is in a sense a democratic socialist institution. It's
No,
government. It's everybody,
it is.
right? You know what I'm
It is.
saying? Everybody's on, there's a sense of mission, there's a sense of purpose. It's run by the government, you're paid by the government, you answer ultimately to the people. Um, and you people can take away whatever message they want. I mean, people can come out of the service and say, well, what I learned is that violence, is the answer. Or you can come out and say, look, this is a collective institution that can be used any number of ways. But what I learned I didn't serve, but what I learned in the service, you can say, is working together.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
Well, the Marine Corps very much took me from my 18-year-old Republican self who didn't understand what I was really believing, and I dived into socialism pretty heavily in the Marines. So shout out to the Marine Corps, thanks. but
That's interesting. How did that work out for you?
well, it was conflicting because a lot of your beliefs you go into the Marines and you're like, yeah, I'm fighting for freedom, and then and then it really hit me heavily that I'm fighting for profit. So that bothered me, but I had a 5-year contract, so we stuck it out. Like I said, I learned. That's why I started diving in. Is there a lot of camaraderie here? It's very similar to democratic socialism, and people don't realize that. But I dived in. Having internet access was also like kind of like that's how sad it is. I had internet access, and I watched Occupy Wall Street
Oh, did you?
happen.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
now I'm like, what is this? What's going on? Why are these rich people laughing at these people on the ground? That bothered me. Then I watched Capitalism: A Love Story in my
Uh, now that
in my barracks friend.
was that Michael Moore or who
Yeah, it
made
was
that?
Michael Moore,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I then it was a drain after that for me. So that was very early on, but yeah, I mean, uh, it gave me a lot. It also gave me a lot of experience in the world. I experienced different people, different cultures, and let me get out inside and see how things work. And I saw a lot of injustice everywhere. And looking back on my home state, I saw it there and how everyone was growing up. I'm like, man, this is bad. I didn't realize this was like across the board bad. It was like very much an awakening moment. So, yeah, the Marine Corps does, or the military does have a lot of right wing elements to it. A lot of people do come out right wing, but also I've met a lot of veterans on this race as well that come out similar to me. They're tired of the system. They want to make a difference, and they're out there fighting. They're fighting the fight. They're in mutual aid orgs. They're trying their best. So yeah, I mean, it's a weird story. I won't lie to you. It's not a common story. But
No, well, the philosopher Kierkegaard said the life can only be understood backwards, but you have to live it forwards. And I mean, I think
yeah,
that's everybody's life. So what's next for you? You've got until what did you say, May 17th?
14th.
Uh, okay, so even less. Uh, to make your case. So I imagine you'll spend the next several weeks crisscrossing West Virginia. Anything else you plan to do to highlight your campaign?
I mean, we're looking at doing. We're building up for TV ads, radio ads, of course. We'll launch those. I'll be on the ground canvassing. Um, Basically everything I'm doing now. Like I said, I'm on the road every day doing events and meeting people. And we're not stopping on it. I'm 100 miles an hour every day. Wake up, go, wake up, go. I mean, I need like 4 hours of sleep to keep going. The rest of my team might need a little bit more, but there's something wrong with me. So probably that
Right,
Marine
right.
Corps. It's that Marine Corps energy. But
Yeah, you know what? It's useful, right? Yeah. So listen, it sounds like you have a really professional campaign. You and your folks are doing a lot of hard work.
I,
All that work takes money, right?
yeah,
I would assume you need money. Hate to be crass, but money is good. If people want to contribute to your campaign, like me or somebody, again, remind us where we would go to do that.
just you can type in Zachary Shrewsbury into Act Blue. You go to my website, Shrewsbury for Senate. I'll spell it SHREWSBURY. And you could also find me on Shrewsbury for Senate on Facebook, Twitter, or X now, TikTok, Threads, Instagram. I'm there, and my link is there as well. You can also I think you can Google me, and my name will pop up, and you can find a link there as well. So, I mean, yeah, we'll always take as much money as we can get. I have one of the best teams, I believe, in politics. That they're just as dedicated as this to me as I am doing it. And in West Virginia, I will say confidently, we have the most professional team on this ground, and I'm here to win.
All right. Well, we wish you the best of luck here at the 0 hour. Again, my guest has been Zach Shrewsbury, candidate for Senate in West Virginia. Zach, best of luck in your campaign, and thanks for coming on the program.
And thank you, for having me, sir. Thank you.
We depend on your support here at the Zero Hour, so please give whatever you can at any of the links you see on your screen. Thanks so much.